Of Mohr Corporation in Detroit, Michigan. The press being illustrated is a Bussman Simetag hydraulically operated powder compacting press, which is Mohr inventory number M4696. The manufacturer's model number is HPM-60S, and the manufacturer's serial number is M2106. This film being made for Biointerfaces of San Diego, California is not a professionally done film. It's done by Mohr Corporation as a second-hand machinery dealer, showing a powder compacting press in our inventory in Detroit. We have supplied you with copies of the manufacturer's brochure, which will give you powder fill depth, maximum tonnage, a general description of the operating control functions and the machine in its general design. We are not trying to represent ourselves as the manufacturer in any way related to this machine. We are simply trying to present to you in a pictorial manner with this videotape the general operating condition of this specific second-hand machine, which has been reconditioned in our plant in Detroit, Michigan. The press has a hydraulic cylinder on the top and on the bottom. Visible inside of the frame on the bottom is the lower hydraulic cylinder with various hydraulic valving. As we move up the frame, which is a welded frame construction, the die set in which the tooling is mounted is visible in the center of the press. The die table is in the center of the screen at the moment. As we move down, the support platens for the core rod and then for the lower punch are visible. Actually, it's just the reverse. It's the die table, the lower punch, and then the core rod is on the bottom. The upper punch platen is visible and in the center of the screen at this time. It's that component part in the center right now. The top of the press is the upper hydraulic cylinder, and the upper and lower hydraulic cylinders control the motion of the upper punch platen down for compaction or up for retracting, or forced hydraulic movement of the die table during the movement of the die table, either during compaction or for ejection when it withdraws down over the fixed lower punch, which is the tooling method of a withdrawal tool motion or floating die table type of die set press. So these two hydraulic cylinders, the one on the top, the one on the bottom, are your controlling hydraulic cylinders for the forces that are going to be exerted in compaction or movement of the cylinders for powder fill or ejection. In addition, there is a hydraulic cylinder on the back which provides for the movement of the powder feed chute forward and back, and we'll show that to you in just a moment. On the left-hand side of the press is the hydraulic control panel. The control buttons are visible, and when we open up the door, you'll be able to see the new programmable controller installed inside this control box. In addition to the selector switches, timers, and so forth, a limit switch cam rack in the center of view controls when certain actions occur or dwells occur by other components. That rack moves up and down when the upper punch moves up and down, and by adjusting the cams, you set when various functions occur, selected on your control panel. Again, in the center of the screen to the left and the right of the die set are dual palm buttons, which are used to start various parts of the cycle. And on the right are hydraulic control valves or indicating valves, which indicate pressure or other functions on the press. We're going to show you the movement of the die set in a few moments when we put power to the press, but while we're up in the front, note the upper punch platen moves guided by the ways which are welded to and machined onto the frame of the press. Here you can see the rearmost way. There's one in the front on the left side of the screen. On the left side, and as you can see, at least the surface finish indicates, they're all remachined, very precision ground and aligned. This gives the proper alignment of your upper punch platen up and down into and from the die. At the one on the right-hand side of the press now, centered in the screen. There is the location for installation of your die. It's the hole in the center of the die table, and you're seeing the front of the powder feed shoe, which is guided on those two rails that run through the shoe. Not visible at the moment, if you look at the bushings in the die table, are the two guide rods, which are not mounted in place, but they go onto part of the upper punch platen. When you set the tooling up, these will provide accurate guiding of the upper punch when it enters the die table. Mounting of your lower punch is done in the center of this punch platen, and this lower punch platen with all of the tap tools is the location for your core rod when you're putting a core rod on the press. This is a close-up view of the hydraulic control panel with its new legends and many new controls. You may be able to read them as you see this tape in your facility in San Diego. Timers, selector switches, and so forth. At the bottom is an hour meter for gauging the duration of the motor's operation over a period of time for maintenance or other purposes. Control valve in the center of the screen is a manual control for manually moving the hydraulic ram. Here we're viewing a close-up of the hydraulic gauges. And down towards the bottom, these are hydraulic control valves for pressure, controlling the various functions of the press. And as we move around to the side of that panel, we can see that the hydraulic control valves themselves are on the right-hand side of the press, whereas the electrical control panel is on the opposite side. There you see the hydraulic reservoir, pipes coming to in front of it. Looking at the rear of the press, you can see the upper hydraulic cylinder, the accumulator. You can see that behind the panel on the left are where the gauges are mounted. You can see that they're very accessible for any service. The back of the die set. Looking down at the hydraulics, you see the reservoir for oil, the main low and high pressure pumps, which are the ones with the belts connected, various gauges and valves. And as we come in closer to the back of the press, you can see, sitting on the back of the die table, the powder feed shoe, the connection for the hose to go to your powder hopper, the back of the powder feed shoe, where it's connected to the hydraulic cylinder, the lines bringing fluid to the hydraulic cylinder, limit switches on the right-hand side looking from the rear, which indicate the forward and rear position of the powder feed shoe and are adjustable to limit or increase the stroke of the powder feed shoe. Down on the bottom right, we have the pump, which is used for pilot pressure of the hydraulic oil. We're now looking at the electrical control panel on the inside, and you'll see that it does have a programmable controller. You should note that the programmer itself, which is on the bottom right-hand side, it's being indicated right now, is the property of Mohr Corporation. It's a programmer we use here for our own remanufacturing or reconditioning or other service purposes, and that does not come with this press. It is a shop tool of our company. That is a General Electric Fanuc programmable controller, which is brand new, as is the entire electrical control panel. We're going to be controlling with the manual control valves the movement of the press. The upper ram just went up and down. You can see it being run up and down, controlled by the electrical push button on the left. Now we're moving the die table up and down. Powder feed shoe is being moved in and out, and it does come forward and go directly back, or will come forward and shake for an adjustable number of times. That's all part of your use of the selector controls, selector switches, and the controls on the panel. I remind you that we're not the manufacturer of this press, and it is a little difficult filming it while trying to speak about it on an ad-lib basis. So we stand to be corrected on some of these descriptions, but I can tell you that they are generally correct, and if you have any questions, speak to us and we'll clarify it in case we accidentally err here. We're going to put it into an automatic or semi-automatic mode in a moment. We're waiting for pilot pressure to come up on the gauges. You do require hydraulic pressure, which is now there. Now, what's the first motion going to be on this?
To do semi-automatic, machine goes through one cycle, stops at eject.
That was semi-automatic with the machine going through one complete cycle, stopping after it completes a cycle, and then ejecting the part. You have to start each cycle by depressing the dual palm buttons. It will cycle one time, stop, release pressure, eject the part. Would you go ahead and start it one more time, please? Both palm buttons together will bring the powder feed tube up for fill. You notice that the upper ram went down for pressure and the die table was forced down at the same time, which gives an adjustable amount of opposed ram pressure. Meaning, as the upper punch is going into the die cavity, you can adjust when the die table is forced down. We have the adjustment already made on the limit switch. There you see the die being forced, and you'll notice the die is moving down at approximately the same rate as the upper punch going down, which should be giving the equivalent of equal opposed ram pressing for uniform top and bottom pressure on the part. Now when the die table in the center of your screen was moving down, it is this control panel, this control valve right here in the center, which controls the speed of movement so that you can vary whether it moves equally or as fast or slower than the upper punch moving down to vary density top and bottom on a compact.
We're going to automatic function. You simply push the cycle reset button, automatic, hit the dual palm buttons. The machine will cycle automatically and continue to run.
So in other words, having set the selection that you want for pressure, strokes, things of that type, and now selecting the automatic mode of operation, the press will continue the cycle after you start the press using the two palm buttons until you end the cycle, either using the emergency stop button, which will stop the press right where it is at that moment in its cycle, or turning the selector switch, which was just done, and will bring the press back to the end of its automatic cycle. Scott, will you stop the automatic cycle, please? By turning this in the automatic mode, if we had tooling and were able to function the press in a normal production mode, you can select whether the powder feed tube comes over the die cavity and then the die table raises for fill, which is called suction fill, or whether the die table raises before the feed tube gets over it and then the feed tube goes over the die with what is called a gravity powder fill. A selector switch which allows you to withdraw after or as the upper punch is raising up, which means that the upper punch moves up off of the part while the die table is moving down, stripping the part, and the part is not under pressure with the upper punch during ejection, or the opposite where you keep the upper punch down on the part until the die table is retracted down and then release it, which is sometimes called a feature like top punch hold down or pre-pressure or other names depending upon the press manufacturer. We have the press in the automatic mode right now, and we've added a dwell timer to the powder feed tube to hold it forward longer, and it's over the die cavity, then the die cavity raises, causing powder fill. Now we've set a timer so that for an adjustable period of time, we are jogging the powder feed tube before it goes back. These are all selections, a lot of variability. It's described in the Bussman Simetag brochure. The die table has gone up for fill, and now we're shaking the powder feeder. And of course, we do have an adjustment for the speed of the powder feed tube movement and how long it stays and jogs over the die cavity for fill, and so forth. We have just turned the selector switch, well, without disturbing the cycle, so that the die table will raise and then the powder feed tube comes forward. So what we're actually illustrating to you on this press is the functional gravity fill with the die table, which will now strip down in a moment for ejection. We'll raise for fill, there it goes, and then the powder feed tube comes forward. If you review this tape back just a matter of 30 seconds, you'll see the suction fill where the powder feed tube came over the die and then it raised for fill. We have the press set so that the upper punch will come down and compact the part, and then it will stay on the part. There it is down, compaction has happened. Now the upper punch is going to stay in place until in that case. The selector switch was set so that the upper punch went up, and then it stripped for ejection. You see that ejection movement after the upper punch went up. We'll do it one more cycle. Down for compaction, the die table moves 2. The upper punch retracts, the lower punch strips down for ejection. Would you turn it to the other mode, please? Now we're going to show you the same press, just having changed the selector switch without interrupting the cycle of the press. Powder fill, upper punch and die table movement, in this case for compaction. Upper punch stayed down while the ejection occurred. We'll see it one more time, which would have kept the upper punch on the part while it was being stripped for ejection. There you go. The many more versatile features of this press. We're showing you the general operation of the press, the quality of what has been an excellent reconditioning job for this press. We're offering this press to your company in San Diego at a very greatly discounted price. Almost, really, truly 50% of what its true market value is worth. The press has been completely reconditioned by us. It is offered to you because it's part of the package of equipment that we're clearing out of inventory as quickly as possible. Our inventory is very high. This happens to be an excellent quality machine. You can get a lot of people in this country who are very familiar with Bussman Simetag presses and will speak about its attribute. It's been a standby for decades in the ceramic and powder metal industry for pressing with single action or opposed ram action using the precision withdrawal tool motion capability, but with the versatility of a hydraulic press where you can press to a preset pressure and the part will get a uniform press density from cycle to cycle. We hope that you're able to avail yourself of the opportunity to buy this press. Understand that by making this videotape, we are in no way making a warranty concerning the machine. For the price for which we have offered the press, it would be an as-is, as the industry term calls it, sale. We have made this videotape as a courtesy to your company so that you have the opportunity in San Diego as a group to view what you would see in person right now in our plant. You may have other questions. We would be pleased to answer them to the extent that we can. Your judgment about this press is one that we hope will find it favorable for your application. We have tried our very best to give you a good description of the press and we'll look forward to your communication as soon as possible. Thank you very much. Our telephone number is 313-846-3000 or area code 800-223-MOHR. We hope to hear from you within a day of your receipt of this videotape, since this press has been put on hold for you pending your decision. We welcome your inspection under power. If you want to see this operation in person for any further reassurance or questions about its operation, call us and we will put it back under power. It is the 13th of November, and this is an actual film showing this press on this date in the Mohr facility here in 1992. Thank you very much, and we look forward to hearing from you very soon. That will end this presentation.